So thank you all who could attend today. My name is Anna McCreedy. I'm an International Student Advisor here at the Berkeley International Office. And we have a number of different panelists today from a variety of offices around campus that are going to share different expertise with you. It's a very wide-ranging panel, and I'm really excited for what we'll be able to share with you today. So thank you, first of all, to all of our panelists who could be here and for taking the time out of your day to attend. And thank you all of you for attending as well and for making this a really interactive and engaging panel. So we're going to start off with just looking at what our goals are for this panel today. Our goal was to gather representatives from a very wide variety of offices across campus to be able to give you more kind of holistic advice, looking at a lot of different areas, so that you're not really just talking with one office at a time. UC Berkeley is a pretty decentralized campus, as you probably know. It tends to be kind of more focused on small offices. So we wanted to have an event that pulls in many people to give you a wide variety of perspectives. So we're looking today at common issues and uncertainties that international students are facing. We know there's a lot of different uncertainties that you're dealing with right now, and a lot of things that are really specific to the international student experience. So we're going to try and make it a really targeted panel that looks specifically at issues and challenges that international students are facing. And then we're going to try and provide really tangible, real-world advice and steps that you can be taking right now to help plan for the next semester and for the future. So things that will help you to have success even in times of uncertainty like these. So thanks for attending, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. I know we'll probably have more people joining as we go along, but they can just join in as they come. So first thing today, we're going to have, first I'll introduce myself. My name is Anna McCreedy, International Student Advisor at the Berkeley International Office. I'm going to be talking to you today mostly about from the immigration perspective and looking at challenges and things that would be affecting your visa. We're also going to be having some polls going on while we introduce ourselves. So just to give a general idea of kind of who is here and what the audience is like. So please take those just so that we can have an idea. I'll launch the first one now. We also have UB here, a licensed psychologist and a counselor from the Counseling and Psychological Services, or CAPS. UB, if you want to turn on your video to say hi.
Give me 1 second.
No worries.
Hi, can people see me or hear me? Hi, Anna, are you able
I can
to
hear you and see you just fine.
Yeah. Okay, hello everybody.
Great. Next is Dr. Amy Honigman, who is also a licensed psychologist and the Graduate Assembly Counselor, also here from CAPS. Amy is going to be talking more about the graduate student perspective and the challenges graduate students face.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Thanks for being here today, Amy. We have Amy Azuma, who is a college advisor from the College of Letters and Sciences. Amy is going to be talking about undergraduate life and experience.
Hi, so great to have you. Thanks so much for joining live, and for those that are here, and remote for those of you who are watching the video later.
Thanks, Amy. And lastly, we have Jing Han from the Career Center. Jing is the Assistant Director for International Students at the Career Center. We're really happy that she could be here today, and she's going to be addressing career and employment.
Morning, everyone. Good to see you all. Thank you for attending the panel.
Great. Thanks, Jing. Our agenda today, we're going to start with some general tips and advice for dealing with uncertainty. So just looking at what are some helpful strategies in dealing with uncertainty in general, and UB is going to start off with that. We're also going to look, again, more in detail at different areas that students can be planning ahead in. So that will be immigration, undergraduate and graduate challenges and issues, and career and employment. We'll end with a Q&A period with some moderated Q&A questions, as well as questions taken directly from the audience. So as we go through this presentation, feel free to add in your questions to the chat function. We probably will not stop and answer them as they're asked, but we will have a chance to go through all the questions at the end and pick some of the more prevalent ones. So please feel free to add in any questions as we're going through. So Looking at the level of study, looks like we have a very high amount of graduates here, which is great. It's around 75% graduates, 15% undergraduate, some exchange student, and some other. So thank you everyone for sharing. Great, I'm just gonna pull up the next poll as we go along. We're also wanting to know if you are an incoming first year student, so if you're just coming for your starting your next semester at UC Berkeley, if you're a returning student, or if you are graduated. And I'll just pause here before we dive into the presentation. Great, looks like we have a pretty even spread. So we have some incoming students, some returning, some graduated, and a few other. So thank you all for being here today. And that's great to know exactly who our audience is so that we can give a little more tailored information to you. So we're gonna start off with UB telling us about how to deal with uncertainty and advice on how to manage that in your day-to-day life.
Okay, Anna, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Jake. Thanks, you.
Okay, great. So thanks everybody for this opportunity, and also I'll be happy to talk about the uncertainty and what is it like for us to deal with uncertainty in daily life. Uncertainty has become a big and major theme in the COVID-19. And what happens to us when we are dealing with the uncertainty in our day-to-day life? The first thing is we are dealing with drastic increase of distress. Our academic plans get interrupted, and we're dealing with more and more complicated visa and the travel ban issue. Our job search becomes really unclear. And at the same time, we're dealing with increased triggers, especially in social media. Nowadays, the social media is really hard for us to find fact and knowledge, or the not, it's more for people to exchange opinions. And sometimes we start to get triggered. It's more likely for us to get triggered by the information we got in social media. At the same time, if you have family who's not currently living with you, you may feel really worried about their well-being in a different country, and they may feel really worried about your well-being, your safety, and your career future. So dealing with the anxiety not from just from yourself, also from your family member, it becomes a really big trigger. At the same time, very unfortunately, with the drastic increase of distress, we're also losing our coping resources, and it will lose them significantly. Our normal, our normal coping methods, such as social support, um, we are able to spend time and defend it to our friends. Now it becomes everything is virtual, and the people may feel really frustrated and even more isolated because you need to make so much initiative and to make appointment with to your friends and to set up the social support. Everything happens so unnatural, and we are dealing with very different personal. Um, I see people saying that my voice is pretty unclear. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah, that's a little better, you. Thank you.
Okay. Um, and at the same time, we are dealing with much different personal space and daily routine. Even we are losing the personal space or daily routine. It's really hard for us to have a very, it's a very clear expectation in terms of my personal spaces or my daily routine is. And I can go to the next step. Okay. And with the all this increase of the stress and the loss of the coping strategies, what happens to us psychologically? The most common complaint or concern I've heard of is people saying, it's so hard to concentrate. It's because we are dealing with so much change internally. We start to have more elevated anxiety and frustration and irritation. Um, people are um, people are are feeling much more impatient and sometimes helpless because of the losing of control. And sometimes they will start to, have all this resistance um, to the reality. So we start to think, oh, it shouldn't be like this, or I should have done this, or so and so should have done this. And at the same time, because of all this helplessness, it's really hard for us to get more motivation. And even when we get activated or when we start to do something, we may find that we get distracted very easily. Procrastination is a very common reaction when we feel afraid or when we feel helpless. And you may have the experience that, towards the end of the day, you don't believe that you've done much, but you feel so exhausted. It's because that we are dealing with all this internal and all this like internal distress all the time. Can we go to the next slide, Anna? So how do we deal with the uncertainty? Um, let's address it to, in two levels. First level is when you are in your regular or baseline function. It means that you wake up a day and you feel like you're able to and you're okay to function. When you are in your baseline function, thinking of the following strategy that might be helpful for you to increase your sense of control. The first thing is to rearrange your living environment. I highly recommend everybody in your personal space, please separate your workstation, your work spot, and your relaxation spot slash where you sleep, and your entertainment spot. It's very important for your body to get conditioned to a different mentality when you are in different spots. And if you find that so difficult to get started, procrastination becomes such a big issue. Treat getting started not just like one step, treating it as a big project. So divide all the big project into small steps. For example, the first step is just for me to go to the workstation, or to get out of my bed, or to get to the shower. Um, and Also, when we are in work, because of the COVID-19, because of the uncertainty, distraction is a big issue. And concentration looks very different in COVID-19. Allow yourself to get distracted without shaming yourself, and simply refocus. Every time when you find that you get distracted, refocus to the present moment. And Anna, can we go to the next station? When you are setting goals in a situation that's very stressful, it's very likely for us to set trap rather than setting goals. What do you mean by setting traps? So sometimes when we are very anxious, we have a long to-do list, right? And when we are making the long to-do list, it feels like we're accomplishing something. But the long to-do list that sometimes only overwhelms us rather than guiding us. So if we can switch from setting trap to setting goals, try to make your goal an action item. For example, if your goal is today, I want to start looking at job search. What's the action? What's the one activity or one action item that you're going to do, and how do you want to measure it? If your action item is, I want to start doing my resume, okay, you want to finish what section of your resume? You want to finish your education experience, or you want to finish your internship experience? And when are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? The more concrete that you're able to listing the steps, the more likely you are able to do it. And how would you reward yourself? Especially if you find that you're doing certain activities such as surfing the social media or watching Netflix as a procrastination, it would be a nice idea to change that into your reward. And next slide, Anna. The second part of the dealing with the uncertainty is when our emotion gets escalated. It's really hard for us to problem solve because we're so worried and we're so helpless. We're not equipped to problem solve. At this moment, we need to address and regulate our emotion first before pushing us into problem solving. And the first thing is, if you find that you're worried about future so much and you're upset about your past so much, it means that your mind and your attention is divided by your anxiety related to future and your sadness related to the past. So stay at the present moment. That's very important. If you find that the anxiety and the sadness becomes so hard to manage, remind yourself that I can focus on the present moment, and I start to make a plan, not for the next 5 years, but for the next 5 minutes. What do I want to do in the next 5 minutes rather than next 5 days or next 5 hours? And changing your body temperature is a way for you to immediately regulate your feeling. If you find that you have a panic attack or much anxiety that you can't breathe, changing body temperature, it could be like you're doing a very extreme physical exercise that you can, doing jumping jack in your home, or taking a hot shower, or sometimes that you can, if you have an icy can of soda, and you could put the soda on your face. So the most important thing is that if you find that your emotion get really escalated, you are not equipped to problem solve. So focused on regulate emotion first, and then get yourself into a status that you are better equipped to manage your stress. Okay, thanks everybody, and feel free to let me know if you have any question related to regulate emotions and increasing your life structure. Okay, thank you, Anna.
Thanks so much, Yu. So we're going to go on to the next section where the individual panelists will be talking about kind of more specific challenges or problem areas for international students right now, more specific areas of uncertainty, and then talk about kind of the specific steps or advice we have for moving forward, even despite the uncertainty. So I'm going to start off with immigration, which seems like obviously a pretty hot topic for international students right now. So these are kind of the big areas I'm going to be looking at, and the areas that in our office we've seen the most anxiety and most uncertainty from students for. So travel obviously is a big one. There's a lot of uncertainty about traveling right now, either leaving the US after you've graduated or for summer, or re-entry into the US if you're an incoming student entering the US or re-entering for the fall semester. There's a lot of just a lot of uncertainty, understandably. So we'll be going into that. We're going to be talking about visa application or renewal. This is applicable to anyone who has either an expired visa or who is applying for a visa the first time. We'll talk about remote instruction and how it affects your F1 or J1 immigration status. And we'll be talking definitely about OPT uncertainty. This is a really big topic right now. We've seen it in our advising, tons of students asking about it in our emails, in the registration for this event, lots of students asking about it, and in the chat. So we'll definitely be going into that today. So for travel, we're just going to kind of go into some of the areas of uncertainty and my biggest advice for these areas. So for leaving the US, a lot of students right now might be nearing the end of their grace period. They might be wanting to return home for the summer, but are finding it difficult. So this is the biggest advice we can give to students who have to leave the US. I would say for travel, if you don't need to leave the US right now, then it's probably best that you don't. It's obviously a big uncertainty right now around travel about returning. And if you don't have to travel, then the best decision is to remain in the US so that you know you can be here when you need to. So obviously there's a lot of factors in there, and it's up to you to make that final decision. But for immigration purposes, the best method would be to stay in the US if you don't have to travel. If you do need to leave the US, like if you're ending your program and your grace period is ending, or you have to exit the US for other purposes, then travel is pretty restricted right now. It can be hard to find flights out of the US, especially flights at a reasonable rate. So these are some of our best advice for students who are trying to leave but are kind of trapped in the US. So first is to work with your consulate or embassy that is local here in San Francisco. We've had quite a few students who have had success working with their embassy or consulate to get a flight home. If you can explain that you need to leave the US, you'll be out of status, and explain the reason for leaving, then we have had students able to get flights that way. Another option is to try to extend your status somehow. There's several ways to do this. You can check in with one of our advisors to discuss what option might be best for you, but you could do a program extension if you can still take classes here at UC Berkeley. You could be applying for OPT or academic training if you're wanting to work here in the US, and that would extend your status a little farther. And another option is that you could change status via travel. So this is, again, you have to travel, so it's a little bit of a less ideal option, but you could exit the US like to Canada or Mexico and then come back into the US on a different visa status, like tourist status if you have it, ESTA, another type of visa status that would allow you to stay longer in the US. Another thing you could do possibly is, even if you can't make it back to your home country, you could leave the US for a third-party country and travel back to your home country via that third country. So there are some options. I know it's a really uncertain time for travel right now. So if you have concerns about this, please feel free to check in with one of our advisors to discuss in more detail. For re-entering the US or for entering the first time, you want to stay very informed about the travel restrictions. On our website, we have kind of the most up-to-date information on travel bans. It's right in the top banner of our website, which is international office at .berkeley.edu. So you can check there to see like what is the most up-to-date travel bans, what policies are happening. We also email all students anytime there's a new travel ban or any updates to travel. So stay up to date through our office, through our website and the emails. Ensure you have all entry documents. The most important ones are obviously your I-20 or DS-2019, your passport, your visa, and make sure you have an updated travel signature. But there are other documents that we recommend you have, supplemental ones. So you can check our website. I have the link right here, and make sure you have all of those documents when you travel, just to be the safest that you can be and to be able to show that you're entering legally and in legal status. And you want to always double check your visa and passport for expiration. Make sure that you're not traveling within the 6 months previous to your passport expiring. Your visa, you can travel up until it expires, but make sure it hasn't expired at the time you're trying to re-enter. Visa renewal right now, I'm going to get into that in maybe the next slide, but it's definitely complicated and it's hard to get a visa renewed at this time. So if your visa is expiring, it's best not to travel if at all possible, because it would be very difficult to re-enter. It will take some time to get your visa renewed. For the visa application or renewal. So this will apply to incoming students. We understand right now the US visas, the consulates and embassies are closed. So it's not even possible to get a new visa or to get your visa renewed until they reopen. They are scheduled to reopen potentially in mid-June. Is the latest information. Although in certain countries, those countries might have their own restrictions about which businesses can be open. So it might have a later reopening date in certain countries. And that being said, even once they do open, many visa processing places, many consulates or embassies, they already have very long wait lists for getting an appointment to renew or apply for a new visa. So in most cases, there's going to be really long delays for getting visas, and this is causing huge uncertainty and huge frustration for international students, very understandably. So Biggest tip for this is if you are in the US, consider staying there and not traveling so that you don't need to renew your visa. But if you're outside the US, if you're applying for a visa the first time, or if you must travel and your visa has expired, then you need to make your appointment as soon as possible. We've seen students starting to successfully make these appointments, but often they're in September or well into the fall semester. So if you're making a visa appointment and you're not able to get one before the fall semester starts, then you will need to consider not attending the first part of the fall semester. So you may need to pursue some remote instruction for at least part of the fall semester. You may need to pursue remote instruction for the full fall semester. You can also consider deferring to the spring semester if that's something that is an option to you. So there are options, and UC Berkeley is devoted to working with students to make sure that they can still access learning, even if you're not able to enter the United States before the beginning of the fall semester. So if this is the case with you, then just keep us updated, the Berkeley International Office, check in with us on your options. If you are entering partway through the fall semester or waiting until the spring semester to enter, then you'll need to get an updated I-20 from our office, which is quite an easy process. We'll just send you a new I-20 with a new start date that's closer to the date you're planning to enter. But we do need to give you a new I-20 in order to enter the US at that time. So just keep us updated. I know it's very uncertain right now, and it's very frustrating for students who are trying to come and study. But it's just something that you kind of have to take as it goes, and know that UC Berkeley is committed to supporting you, even if you're not able to enter at the time that you are wanting to. So this section ties into the last section with remote instruction and your immigration status. So if you are doing remote instruction for part or all of the fall semester, then it could have an impact on certain parts of your status. So if you are a new student who is incoming for the first time, we will not be able to activate your SEVIS status if you're doing all remote instruction. So if you are all remote for fall or part of fall, then you will only be in active SEVIS status once you enter the US. So we can't activate your SEVIS status if you're doing remote instruction. If you are a continuing student and you're pursuing remote instruction, then we will keep you in SEVIS active status. As long as you maintain your enrollment and you're still full-time enrolled for the fall semester, you will continue to be SEVIS active status, whether you are here in person or whether you're studying remotely. And you can be studying remotely from any location. I saw someone asking where you can study remotely, but you can study here in Berkeley remotely. You can study somewhere else in the US. You can study inside your home country. If you are a continuing student, then you have more flexibility. For students who are coming in for the first time, you would want to do your research, understand how this could affect you. Read our COVID-19 FAQ, because we have a pretty detailed information about this, how remote instruction can affect your status on there. Read our emails, because we're being pretty communicative about this. And then check in with a bio advisor about what your available options might be. So again, you can remain outside the US and pursue remote instruction. You could enter partway through the semester once you do get your F1 visa or J1 visa. You could defer attendance to the spring semester, and to do that, you would want to work with your department or your college to defer. Or you could think about, if you're a continuing student, you could think about withdrawal for the fall semester and readmittance for the spring or later semester. So that's another possibility that's available to you. Withdrawal and readmittance is a little bit of a complicated process. So if you're wanting to explore that option, I'd highly recommend signing into our virtual advising hours to discuss with an international advisor in person. Okay, and the last is OPT uncertainty. I'm going to talk about both the possibility of regulatory changes, which is very much on everyone's mind, as well as the eligibility requirement. And this is going to be one of those things that might be impacted if you are not in SEVIS active status for the fall semester. So as for the possibility of regulatory changes, I know that there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of kind of hype in the news and media about this recently. So we do know that this is something that is being looked at. It's something that is being considered by the government. I will say that OPT is something that has been looked at in the past pretty heavily. It's been scrutinized quite a bit, and we haven't seen action yet. So it's just because they're looking at it does not mean that there is going to be changes. And even if there are changes, it's very unclear about what actions are possible. So this is kind of an area of uncertainty that unfortunately we can't give a whole lot of clarity to, just because it's an area that we don't know ourselves what is possible to be changed by presidential proclamation. And if it is changed, we don't know who it would affect. So I can tell you that it is very, very unlikely that if OPT was to be changed, it would affect anyone that is already currently on approved OPT status. If you have OPT status and it's been approved, it's very unlikely that they could just take that away from you. So what is more likely is that it would affect possible OPT applications. It could come in the form of like a travel ban for students who are on OPT. So there's a lot of different shapes this could take and a lot of ways it could affect students. And right now, what we're trying to tell students is that it's a lot of speculation, and we don't want students to panic because of what this could be. We don't know what it could look like, and there is a lot of advocacy going on around this. It's really, OPT is very, very important to the business sector, to the tech center, to international education. There are a lot of different areas that are really rallying to show the importance of OPT to the government. So there's a lot of advocacy going on, a lot of people that care very deeply about this. And I don't think it's something that you need to be overly panicked about until there is something to worry about. Just know that we're keeping a very close eye on it. We understand that this is an area that is hugely, hugely important to our students and international students everywhere. So we are watching it very closely. If there is any tangible steps that are being taken, then you will be the first to know. We'll be sending out information immediately to the students. And the best thing that you can do is just kind of stay up to date on the situation. There's really no way to know for sure what could be changed and who it could affect. It's a lot of various information flying around right now. And what you can do is just kind of stay up to date with us, because we will be providing you with actual information and how it actually might affect you if and when that does happen. So I do wish we had kind of more tangible things to give you about this OPT uncertainty, but just know that once we do have something tangible, you will be the first to know. In terms of the 2-semester eligibility requirement, this kind of goes back to the remote instruction. So like I said, for incoming students will not be in CVIS active status if they have not entered the US. So for the fall semester, if you're entering partway through the semester, or if you are doing remote instruction until the spring semester, then that semester will not count towards your OPT or CPT eligibility. And what I mean by that is that for OPT or CPT, you must have 2 semesters of full-time status before you're able to apply. So who this is going to affect quite a lot is for any 1-year programs, any master's programs or programs that are 1 year, or if you're transferring in for just 1 year, or if you're coming back and you're readmitted and you're in your final year. So this is definitely another important issue that we are communicating with departments about. For students that are just doing a 1-year program and they lose one of those semesters of eligibility, that means they would not be eligible to apply for OPT at the end of their program. So we're looking into possibilities. Some things that you can think about are, if this does affect you, you might seriously consider deferring so that you can have those 2 semesters. And we're also talking with departments about possible solutions to this, such as extending students into the summer so they have an extra semester. So we're looking into ways to do this, but just know that if you're not able to be in CVIS active during the fall semester, then that semester will not count towards your OPT eligibility. So it's just an important thing to share with you. So that is for most of the things for me. I see that there were quite a few questions here in the chat, so I'll go through those as we do some of the other presentations and try to answer some of them at the very end. I will hand it off. Oh, sorry, one quick, just some general advice. As I said before, minimize travel as much as you can. Stay up to date on any information from our office, either through our website. I linked the immigration policy updates here, the COVID updates here, and through our emails. Know that UC Berkeley is working to accommodate students if they're entering late or if they can't make it for the fall semester, then we're working to support you as best we can. And communicate with Bio. If you have any questions, we have multiple ways you can communicate with us by email or in-person advising, so take advantage of those. I will now hand it off to Amy Azuma to talk about some undergraduate areas.
Hi, thank you so much, Anna and you for your presentations earlier. And I know we have a mix of undergraduates and graduate students here, as well as students who have graduated and are on OPT. So hello to everyone I've advised in the past, and to incoming students. I look forward to being of support. It makes me really proud to work at Berkeley for internationals, because our international office is one of the most proactive and really respected around the country. I know the lack of information and the lack of certainty is very uncomfortable. I just want to acknowledge that. But our office here at Berkeley is really providing a lot of transparent, clear, and empowering information to help you make the best decisions for your specific case. So I hope, thank you so much to Anna and all the colleagues. Thank you. And LNS is really excited to welcome new undergraduates and to support our continuing undergraduate international student population. You matter a lot to us. And we have some services which I hope will be of support. I'm happy to support you personally. And then we also have my colleague, Jessie Rosales, who's the international student liaison, a very strong advisor, and a few other colleagues who are really familiar with both offices and can support you in integrating the policies and planning for the impact. The way I see undergraduate students, international students adjusting to this time are in terms of trying to figure out schedule planning, because you're planning sort of for two possible semesters often, a remote semester and an in-person semester, or a mixed in-person and remote semester. And the coursework you might choose to take, whether you choose to take courses in the semester based on what happens and how the instruction method is delivered, may be different. So I encourage you to be thinking when you have the capacity and well-being to do so about what kind of course performance really is best left if you have scheduling flexibility for in-person, and what course performance might be really very helpful for, like in the remote environment. Some of us actually may do better with remote learning. The opportunity to replay video and recorded instruction can work. That's a great question. So schedule planning, this is something LNS can help you with. If you're a new incoming student, we'll be helping you through what's called a GBA module, which is a B Courses, our online learning platform. And there's a lot of information there. And I'll go ahead and share in the link right now the new student guide for incoming internationals that, excuse me just a second here, that will help you understand planning progress and when you can meet with LNS advisors and how to access them through this new student portal that we're doing. If you're a new incoming student and you're discussing deferring admission, this is not the College of LNS, but I'm just sharing information from admissions. On June 1st, in your My Admissions portal, the MAP portal, you'll have a contact, an email for your admissions person, and it's not LNS, but it's the admissions person who you work with on negotiating that. LNS is happy to support you and direct you if you get confused about who to contact. We're always helpful to be the office that helps redirect you. I know Bio also, the international office, provides that as well. So in terms of incoming students, in terms of continuing students who've been here a semester or more at the point of the fall, if you're thinking about taking a time away before the semester starts, it's called a cancellation. Some students call it a withdrawal, but a withdrawal is from an active semester. So information about canceling for this semester is something that's easy to find on our new LNS website, and we'd love to talk this through with you before you do it. And I know the International Office also has a form and a meeting process that helps you to plan. So it's easy to do, and we can work with you, LNS, whether you're in a not active student status right now or you're active, you're always one of our students, and we're happy to continue meeting with you. So it's not, our advising is not related to whether you're active in that, and that's a little bit of our cancellation policy right there, and how to apply for readmission if that does affect you. So remote learning is a really challenging thing. We don't know what the fall semester will hold, and we don't know, even if the fall semester is in person, if you'll be doing remote learning because you're unable to get a visa. There's so much uncertainty, and generally planning for uncertainty is super challenging. But thinking about how to set yourself up at home, if you're going to be wherever you'd be located, wherever your learning home will be, to have great quality in terms of internet access, for streaming live video, sound quality, what kind of equipment you might need, and if that's something to do, it's something to consider now, as we don't know what's happening, but that's a real possibility. Thinking about how you can support yourself in the remote learning environment, LNS has an incredible resource who are, and I'll put this in the chat as well, are LNS graduate student mentors, who are graduate students that help LNS college undergraduates create academic plans, create study plans, and really do kind of metacognitive analysis of how you study best to be most successful. And that's really challenging. And then for students wanting to make adjustments in the timing of graduation, maybe you were planning on taking 20 units, don't do that, but in person, but now you know all you'd be able to handle in the remote environment, or with the amount of uncertainty and the kind of emotional component of that might be 13 units. And you'll need an extra term. You can meet with LNS and we can talk about how to plan for an additional semester, should that be needed, how to plan to work in summer, or what other options you might have in order to be able to get your degree with a plan that meets the amount of challenge the current context is providing. So really, LNS can help you with all these things. And Anna, if you could just flip, I know you're super busy. So meet with academic advisors about this. Incoming students, your meeting is sort of through this portal, and that's a little bit different, but I can go ahead. I don't know if you can click the hyperlinks, but I'll put them in the chat in the middle. And there are many kind of like overlapping and interconnected aspects to consider with your planning. And one is, how do you still go forward with career planning? And I know Jing from the Career Center is going to talk about this. And also those, what we call discovery experiences, high impact, like research, working collaboratively with student groups and involvement to be able to continue meeting your goals. And that's something our office can help connect you with, in addition to, of course, the Career Center around that. But if you can't do an internship, maybe you can do a lot of networking to create a portfolio website that really showcases. So because option A and pathway A is blocked, it doesn't mean there are other pathways, and we're experts at generating multiple pathways and helping you create options that are going to get you to your goals in this kind of surprising period. So there's many aspects. And then Anna, if you could go ahead and click forward. Thank you. So here's a little bit on meeting with the advisor link I just threw in there. So emailing instructors is really challenging. When we get more information, which we're expecting shortly, on how instruction is going to be delivered in the fall, and also whether you can enter the US or not, whether you can arrive at Berkeley or not based on the visa situation. I've created an email that'll help you reach out to faculty members once we know what's happening, to, if in the case it is remote, to talk about how their class may or may not be a good fit for you, because that's one of the most important for being successful in the class, is to check out, are you going to have recorded lectures? Like if you're 14 hours ahead or 17 hours ahead, an 11 o'clock class could be at 4 a.m., right? And are you able to function at that hour with the adjusted period? It's different to be learning, for those that haven't done it yet, in a time zone difference. Like you're a little bit out of sync or in a different space. And so it's important to think about how instructors may or may not be able to support that well. They're certainly being encouraged to and provided resources. LNS can help you with this, but I created a template that can help you reach out to ask about how will lectures be accessible? If participation is graded, is this something I can still get a good grade on, given the hours? I can't be there live, you know, at 3 a.m. in the morning. Is there an alternate method? And then dealing with exam times, you know, the exam for class may be scheduled at a pretty, I would say, not normal waking hour if we're in the remote environment. And how can you ask faculty in a really, you know, polite and relatable, generative way about any accommodations that may be offered? And there's been a lot of talk among the LNS faculty about how we can support students who may be in other time zones when we're taking this. So I think another tip is to use our LNS mentors, and I'll plug them again, for how to work with faculty and how to ask these questions or how to make requests when courses are in progress. We're really excited to help you become a better advocate for yourself, because you know your needs the best within the classroom, and to do that in a way which is going to get you a good response. So our graduate student mentors can help with correspondence, co-curricular activities. We're awesome at connecting you with things that help support your academic goals outside of the classroom, and we'd love to do that, whether that's a referral to another center. For faculty, both LNS advisors are strong in this area. And then I would just encourage you, connection is really strong, whether you're in person or you're, you know, remote in learning. Attending office hours and really intentionally developing a relationship with faculty and with peers in the classroom is important for your learning, because learning isn't just informational, it's also a social context to it, and it helps us integrate and learn from each other. And that's something our LNS grad mentors can also support. But I really strongly encourage you during the remote period, and if there are any undergraduates here that are continuing students who want to echo that or share their best tips for connecting and working with the challenges of the remote, please go ahead and chime that in. If we can just pop to the next slide. Anna, I know you're busy texting everyone. So academic advising, you know, and LNS, we work together with the international office to do program planning. So, you know, if you need an extra semester or you're planning on graduating a semester early, we can work to extend or to shorten that. And then the international office would work on the visa and duration of stay, kind of, you know, program length of that. And so that's exciting. And the Career Center will also be supporting you with how that may or may not impact OPT, CPT, the recruitment timeline for that, with bio doing the work kind of authorization advising. So we're all mixed in at that. We recognize things are interrelated and you'll be visiting multiple offices. So please plan for that ahead of time. And LNS has remote advising and really good availability right now on that. If I can grab, so general advice, I work with probably, you know, 5 to 10 students a day in half-an-hour appointments. So I've seen a lot of different people. One thing is to know what kind of stress and anxiety you're experiencing, kind of to do a check. Some students are facing like on the level of existential anxiety, like who am I and what am I doing with my life? I think CAPS, our counseling center, is a great source for that, as well as like close friends, deep friendships you have, mentors. and any spiritual communities you belong to. That's not something LNS, well, I love to hear all about the different experiences students are having, is very strong at supporting you in. So if you're just like, what should I do with my life? It may be best to explore through other offices in addition to LNS. But if you're having natural anxiety, like how am I going to make progress towards my major? How am I going to plan my schedule? How would plan A or plan B work out? Will this course be offered in the fall and the spring? That's something we can really powerfully support you on. So we look forward to that. And then there's the uncertainty aspect. And if you ever notice yourself thinking like, you know, like I'm not good enough, I'm not learning right in the remote semester, like having doubts about who you are and your worth, that's something our counseling center is also awesome at supporting. And LNS can definitely help direct you to the right office. And I just want to encourage you to reach out. LNS is incredibly excited to be a support during this uncertain times. And I'll send you the link to making appointments. You can choose advisors that you've worked with in the past by name, or you can schedule the first available appointment. So I hope this has helped the undergraduates in terms of what LNS does and what we can work through. And I'll go through the chat to check for any questions that were marked at LNS. So good luck. Thank you so much. You know, thanks to Bio for making sure you all are supported with as much information as can be provided during these times.
All right, thank you so much, Amy. We'll pass it on. I'm just kind of noting the time. We are running a little later than expected, but we'll continue to keep presenting. And if panelists can be answering questions too in the chat, that way we can try and answer questions even if we don't have time for all of the Q&A at the end. So I will pass this along to Amy Honigman, who's going to talk to graduates.
Hi, and you can hear me okay, I hope. So I've given this talk already to graduate students that are currently at Berkeley. So if I can't get through all of this or answer all of your questions, there is a talk on graduate students dealing with COVID, and that you can probably find through your GSAO advisor or through GradDiv. And they probably have a link to that talk that they've recorded it. So if I can't get to everything, go check that out. The common questions that I've heard from graduate students are oftentimes, what will happen to my research? How will that be impacted? Especially if there's field work that has to be done involved in that, as well as labs being closed, and how am I going to get to handle all of that within the timeline that my advisors have given me. There's concerns about productivity in terms of your own expectations as well as your advisors' expectations, concerns about feeling disconnected from even just being at the university, let alone your cohort or your advisors. And it's also, as you had talked about earlier, hard to maintain motivation. So just address a couple of these things fairly quickly. Amy, Anna, if you could advance the slide. So one of the things is that concerns about you may not be able to do the work that you had originally planned to do at this time, like being in your lab. But now's a good opportunity to pivot and to come up with possibly other things that you might be interested in or other aspects to your research that you can get involved in. It also might be a good time to catch up on all that reading that you've been putting off. And also exploring other parts of your field that you really hadn't been able to give the time to before. Expanding your kind of window of knowledge at this time could be really helpful. One other concern about expectations is having to negotiate with your advisors. A lot of people are worried that their advisors are thinking that they're going to be on the same kind of timeline that they had been before. Well, actually, your advisors are probably also in a similar situation as you are, that they're not being able to get all their work done as much as they would like to. So just talk to them professionally, just go to them and talk to them about what's happening in your work, or that you might not be able to get, the deadlines done in a timely manner, and negotiate with them. Just so long as they know that you're being attentive to it, not just letting go of everything. They like to hear from you, because otherwise, if they don't hear from you, they don't really know what's going on. So it's good to be in contact with your advisors about this. Also, stay in touch with people in your cohort for current students and as well as other international students. Incoming students, you still have a chance to get to know people in your cohort as well as just anybody here attending, and just connect with people. It's good to know that other people are going through the same thing, because we all now are going through similar situations, and you're not alone. It's not unusual what you're feeling or experiencing, because probably everybody else is experiencing something similar anyway. Another thing that's really helpful to remember about motivation is, first of all, taking on what you can take on. Yubi had mentioned something before about feeling like not completely in control or feeling helpless. Ask yourself, what can I actually be in control over? It may just simply be reading this article for right now, or what goals do I want to actually fulfill today? Like Yubi said, not 5 years from now, but today or the next few days. And also thinking about what's meaningful about your work. What brought you to the university? What brought you to do this research? Or your undergraduate experience, what from there was important to you that you still want to carry forward? And thinking about that, because that doesn't go away. The other thing to remember is, Anna, if you don't mind advancing the next slide, is that how you approach all this makes a difference. Unfortunately, the whole world is going through something pretty unique and different, but there will be an end to it at some point. We don't know when, and the ambiguity might be hard to deal with, but at some point things will get better and things will kind of go back to, I don't know, normal, but things will go back to somewhat the way they were. And having a sense of resilience about that. How do you want to get through this time currently right now? You have to ask yourself, how do I like to see myself acting right now? In what kind of constructive way do I want to see myself coping with this? There's also this issue about post-trauma growth. And I think this is a really helpful approach to thinking about what we're going through. That even people who've been through terrible trauma can look at the experience in hindsight and say, well, of course I didn't want to go through that, but as a result of that, it has made me a better person, a wiser person. I've grown a lot from it. And looking at the situation with a different kind of attitude can really make a difference. And asking yourself, how would I like to see myself grow in this situation? There's a lot to learn from in this about the world, but also especially about yourself in these kinds of difficulties. And I think probably one of the most important things to think about right now is being patient with yourself. We're all going through difficult things. Motivation is hard, feeling connected is hard, and people start blaming themselves for feeling what you're feeling. Try not to do that. Try to be kind to yourself. Now, that doesn't mean sitting around watching Netflix all day. But it might mean just saying, okay, this is a hard thing to go through right now. How do I want to be kind to myself in this moment as my best support, as my best friend would support me? And look at it from a different kind of attitude that might be more productive, constructive, and kinder. Have a little bit of compassion for yourself and also for everybody else that's going through the same situation. So just really quickly wanted to hit on those points. And again, if you'd like to see the longer version of my talk, be in touch with your GSOA advisor or grad div as well. But thank you all, and I wish you all the best of luck in getting through this. Take care.
Thank you so much, Amy. So we're going to finish up here with Jing from the Career Center.
All right, thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's panel. My name is Jing Han. I'm the career counselor for international students at the Career Center. So I'm pretty sure that career job search has always been on the center of our consideration as international students, especially during this very challenging, difficult time. So here today, I want to share with you some of the common questions, concerns we learned from students, especially international students, thanks to the pandemic, and advice, recommendations, strategies we want to give you to hopefully help you to power through this process and move forward, okay? So the first of all, I want to share some of the common questions we hear from students. The first one, fundamentally, many students are asking us how the pandemic, the economic uncertainty are influencing recruiters, employers recruiting, and then the job market. And then secondly, under the current situation, how should I carry out my job or internship search? And then because of the shelter in place, many traditional on-site structured internships have been interrupted. So many students are asking about what are the alternatives to still gather work experience in the US, and what are the resources to find out those experiences, such as remote work, micro internship, one-time project, volunteering, research, etc. And then still some other students, because their internship for the summer is not available. So many students are wondering what are the plans for this summer. Some students, they were about to begin their internship search in the time of March, but then the pandemic got into the way. So we got some questions about the summer plan as well. The last one, but not the least one, like I mentioned, some students, including international students, they lost their internship or full-time offers because of the pandemic. So those are the questions we had before as well. Anna, the next page, please. Thank you. And then based on the questions, first of all, the career service offices, we have been trying to stay in touch with the employers ever since the pandemic to make sure we know how the job market is and how the employers are doing. So based on what we know, number one, we agree that we're facing a challenging and different job market. It's very different from what it was before the pandemic time. I'm pretty sure we all heard about the unemployment rate and number in the US now. At the Career Center, we also see a very obvious decrease. We saw an obvious decrease with job postings online. Take Handshake as an example. From the mid of March, from the beginning of the shelter in place to mid of May, we saw a 43% decrease with job postings on Handshake, comparing with the same time frame of last year. And then, like I mentioned, we also saw students losing their internship or full-time offers. However, overall, I think the employers who revoked their offers, especially full-time offers, are a small number. And then the second one is, based on national surveys and based on the survey we did with employers for UC Berkeley students, so far we learned that more than 60% of the employers say they're gonna continue the same level of recruitment for the year of 2021. So this is a good news. So more than 60% are keeping the same level of recruitment, which is encouraging. And then moving forward, when we look at the year of 2020 to 21, most employers are considering becoming virtual for their recruiting, at least for the fall. And I see how the situation will be like and if we can be back to normal with in-person recruiting in the spring. Also, a notable group of employers are also talking about a hybrid approach, which means a mix of in-person and virtual recruiting for the fall and the spring. So basically, employers are still in this exploration process, trying different tools, best practices, and resources. So that's basically the big map of how the employers are at this point. So Anna, next page, please. Thank you. And based on the landscape we're facing, here are some advice or suggestions we want to give the students. First of all, like I mentioned, there are still jobs. So take Handshake as an example. So Handshake is the online system the Career Center of UC Berkeley are using to coordinate employers' recruitment at Cal. So based on Handshake, up to the mid of May, we still have 11,500-ish full-time job postings. And then we have more than 1,100 internship postings on Handshake as well. So there are still jobs, although we see the slowdown of the hiring pace, but this is not a time for us to stop searching for sure. And then being proactive is very critical at this time. So for us to be better prepared for the fall, I strongly recommend you to take some time in the summer to prepare for the fall recruiting. It can be renew your resume, overall job application documents, get familiar with Handshake, make appointment with the Career Center. We're open for the whole summer. We can help you to develop a plan, get familiar with the resources, answer your questions, just to get you to go for the fall. And also, just mentally prepare yourself can be very helpful. And then like Anna mentioned, we're facing a lot of uncertainties. It's a very fluid situation with the job market and also the government's regulations about visa and work authorization. So try to stay informed about the regulation, about the job market information can be very helpful. And then the fourth one I really want to emphasize here is that based on your major or based on your degree program, thinking about the competitiveness of job market we're facing now, I think it would be worthwhile for you to take a step back and then think about what are the more in-demand career fields or skills for the US job market now. It can be based on your major, the potential job fields you are having, and then just research and understand which ones are more in demand, are more in need by the employers, which ones can give me more opportunities. And for the career field or the profession I'm focusing on, what are the skills employers need the most from their job descriptions? And if there's a gap between what they're looking for and what you have now, and then it will be helpful to take some time to learn and practice and master those skills. So take some time to assess the in-demand skills, knowledge, and tools, and then master those can be very helpful. And then, like I mentioned, recruiting will be mainly virtual in the fall. So it will be very critical for us to take some time to learn, practice the skills that can help us with our job search under the virtual reality, such as how can we best present ourselves online? How can we still engage with employers well when career fair info sessions are all online? How can we interview well using Zoom or other online platform? All those need practice, right, to get to the level that you can be effective. So the Career Center is here for you. We are here to teach you and then practice with you and connect you with the resources for you to be on top of those skills. And then the last one, but not least, people connection. It is, we are always emphasizing the importance of people resource, and especially for this time. So purposefully build up and maintain good, warm relationship, cold relationship for your job internship search can be very helpful, especially when everything's virtual. People resource can help you so much with getting closer to the employer, getting the insights about an organization, and help you stand out. So truly take effort to cultivate your circle of support. People resources can be helpful. And again, Career Center, we're here to help you with that. Thank you. And the next page, please. Thank you. And then very quickly for the summer, like I mentioned, many students' summer plan got interrupted. So some of the ideas you can think about, summer courses can also be, for sure, be fine. And then some students will take the summer to do the grad school application, such as exam preparation when you can focus. That can be a good idea. Like I mentioned, if you can take the summertime to do some skill building training, can be good. There are online, in-person, or free or fee-based, a lot of resources. So it can be a good option. And then of course, if you're in home country or if you're in the US, but maybe think about the alternative to a structured internship, such as remote job, a micro internship, one-time project, volunteering for non-for-profit, research with the professor, etc. So we have to be creative, open-minded to the formats of work experience we can get at this point. All right, next page, please. All right, and then for some students, like I mentioned, unfortunately, their offers got revoked from the employers. And for those students, number one, I want to share is that we talked to the employers, and one feedback we got is that you can still put this internship or full-time offer on your resume, but it's a good idea for you to provide a note canceled due to COVID-19. The reason for you to present that on the resume still is that it is a very good information for you to show your future employers you have been accepted by a US employer. So that can speak a lot about your competitiveness for the job market. But at the same time, for students who lost their offer out of the plan, they are facing this challenge of getting something to support their OPT very quickly. So again, we have to be open-minded about the experience that can qualify for OPT. It doesn't have to be a paid, structured, full-time job. It can be paid, it can be unpaid, it can be virtual, it can be with multiple employers. So the bio and the career center, we can help you to discuss the situation and then come up with a plan and some resources as well. And then the last one I want to mention is that people resource, again, is very important, especially for this challenging situation. If we're in this calm down kind of situation, start with your warm relationship, people who know about you already. Maybe they know you through events, maybe they interviewed you before. They can advocate to you more effectively at this time. You can get a quicker turnaround to get something for OPT. So those are the feedback we want to have for the rescinded offer. All right, next page, please. Cool. So overall, general advice. I understand this is a super challenging and pressured time. So this is a time for us to be truly proactive, adaptable, and then creative. Being proactive means that, just like I mentioned, for example, take the summertime, especially the end of the summer, to prepare for the fall, even mentally, can help us a lot. And then be adaptable. We are handling a lot of uncertainty, ambiguity. So we have to be used to learning by doing, take one step at a time, and then be adaptive, being able to adapt to the new situation quickly, and then be creative. Think about, at the end of the day, what can be the formats or the methods for me to get valuable work experience in the US? And then the second one will be stay informed and connected. This is a time that we're facing a lot of challenges, and many times you have to go to different resources to have the resources together for you to map out the next step. So don't be isolated, reach out, seek help. We're here to help you. The better you can get help, the more information you can get, it will be easier for you. The last thing, but not the least one, will be we have to cultivate multiple plans. We can for sure put a lot of effort into our plan A. However, we always have to have a backup plan. What if the plan A doesn't work out? What is my backup? What is the backup of my backup? Have multiple plans can help us to make sure we get something for our post-graduation. So I think that can be also helpful when we are planning our job internship search down the way. And then again, the career center, we're here to help you. We're open for the whole summer. Our services are virtual, but we're here. So please reach out, make an appointment with us, check out our email, our events. We hope to serve you more in the future. And I will answer your questions through chat and Q&A. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you guys all so much for being here, for sharing this expertise with the students. We did have a moderated Q&A plan, but it looks like our advice took up the more than the entire hour. So we're just gonna skip through. We had a few different ones, but I think it's more important to answer any questions that you do have. If anyone has a few last questions, maybe we could take one or two more before we sign off. I tried to answer as many as I could in the chat, but feel free to add in a few more. And just a big thank you to everyone who was able to come. As I said before, we are recording this webinar, so we'll be sending it out. It'll be available on our website. We'll also send it to everyone who RSVP'd and registered, so you will all get a copy of the recording and you'll get a copy of all the slides. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. It looks like we were able to get most of these answered. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the recording.